What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how to sew a hoodie. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure to follow me on like social media like Twitter and Instagram. Also, if you're interested in buying any of the clothes that you see on my channel, please just feel free to like DM me on Instagram and I'll be willing to sell you it if you have PayPal. But yeah, enjoy, thanks for watching, yeah. Alright, first things first, you're going to need some water. You're going to need 2 yards of the fabric that you want to use. You're going to need about a half a yard of ribbing. You're going to need some fabric scissors. You're going to need some pins. You're going to need thread, a seam ripper, and a bobbin, and obviously a sewing machine. Okay, so step one is just to lay your fabric out. If you've bought your fabric already, make sure you find the direction. This one is going to be kind of difficult because it's kind of textured, but what you want to do is flip it so the two front sides are touching each other with the direction of the fabric going down. Okay, first step is to use your hoodie that you're measuring and set it down. Now the first thing that we're going to be cutting out is just the body, and what I like to do is I like to go a little bit over because this is a hoodie that's a size large, but I like my hoodies oversized, so I'm going to go about 1 inch or 2 longer, wider than what it actually is. Alright guys, once you have your body cut out, then we're ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be the arms. Now one thing that you should keep in mind when you're doing the body is that you have to make sure that the neckline for the front part, because well this is right now inside out, but once we sew all the parts together, then you're going to want the front neck to be lower than the actual back for when you put on the hood, because that's like the basic part of a t-shirt or any like upper garment. The front neck should be lower than the back. Alright, so we're going to start sewing, and the first parts you want to sew are going to be here at the shoulders and along the sides. Alright guys, next step is just flip it inside out so you can see what you've done. Now what you should have is just the main part of the body constructed. You should see that the neck is lower than the back, and you should see that the armholes are pretty equal to each other. Any other fabric that you see or like any mistake, you should cut that off now to prevent it from bothering you in future steps. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out the arms and we're going to construct the hood. Alright guys, now we're going to start cutting out the arms. What you're going to need is the original hoodie that we measured off of. This is just to compare arm lengths. And what you're going to need, because the sizing of the armhole for this one is going to be different than this one, so if you lay the original hoodie that you started sewing, it'll tell you exactly where to start the arm, which is always good for reference. Also, don't forget that when you're sewing the arms, you should make sure that you're starting off of a point that folds, because that's how an arm is constructed. There should only be one point where you sew, which should be at the bottom of your arm. Alright guys, so once you've cut out both arms, I actually forgot to mention this, but 2 things. When you cut out the arms, you should make sure that the direction you're cutting them is down, because once you sew the arms on, they'll correlate with the direction of the rest of the hoodie. And a second thing is that cut out the first arm freestyle, and then the second one, don't use the original hoodie you measured. Just take the arm that you just cut, place it over the next area that you're going to cut, and go off of there so you have 2 completely equal arms. And then the next step that we're going to go right now is we're going to go sew it. Also, before you sew it on, don't forget to flip your hoodie inside out again. Alright guys, so before you're ready to attach the arm, you're going to need to do 1 basic straight stitch down. Alright guys, once you've stitched everything, just flip it inside out to make sure you did a good job. And it should look pretty basic. Just make sure there's no mistakes. Make sure you've double stitched everything so the edges are strong, especially around the armpit area and the wrist area. Okay, once everything looks good, just flip everything inside out once again to get it ready to attach to the hoodie. Okay, now it doesn't really matter which arm you start off of, but you're going to want to make sure that you sew everything around. You're going to want to open this, you're going to want to align everything so you're sewing around. Make sure you're not stitching it through, because you're going to want this hole to be open so you're going to be able to put your arm through, which is pretty like self-explanatory. Alright guys, once you've stitched both of the arms on, make sure that you're cleaning everything up as you go, and now you're going to be ready to flip it inside out and see what you've done. Alright guys, so everything here has been attached. You should make sure that the lines and everything should be straight and should look pretty good. Make sure that there's no loose areas where you missed a spot. Now, you should have done everything according to the outline of the shoulder. And the next step that we're gonna do right now is we're gonna construct and attach the hood. Alright guys, now to construct the hood, what we're gonna need to do is start cutting out an outline that goes like this. Okay, you're gonna need a curve right here, and then 2 straight sides like this. And we're gonna need 4 pieces that go like that. Now what I like to do is to cut an oversized hood. So I'll do an inch or 2 bigger than what the actual hood is. And then once I'm done with that, I'll take what I cut out and then repeat it on the next one. Okay, so once you've sewed all 4 parts of the hoodie, you should have 2 parts like this that are facing the right sides facing together, and one that is exactly alike. Now what we're gonna start doing is we're gonna start sewing just the curved area to start constructing the hoodie, and we're gonna do that on both sides. Okay, so once you've sewn everything along the curve, the next step is going to be to open it up and just to make sure that all of your work is done. So open it up like this, like that, make sure it's good, make sure you haven't messed up, make sure everything is touching well together. And then the next step is we're gonna be attaching them together to create the one piece of the hood. So take the top part of the curve, okay? There's gonna be one side that's gonna be longer and the other side that's shorter. We're gonna be attaching it at the front where it's shorter. And we're gonna attach it at right sides together. So we're gonna take it like this, okay? Make sure that's ready. Take this part, which this is gonna be the top and the front of that part, and we're gonna be attaching them like this. Like that, just like that. And then you're gonna sew down both sides, and then I'll show you how that turns out. All right guys, so now once you've sewn both fronts together on both sides, you're ready to flip it right side out so you can see almost the final product of the hood. So you're gonna grab it like this, just kind of flip it like that, and voila, you have your hood. Now you can kind of set it down, make it symmetrical, make sure that it's good. Your hood should look somewhat like this. As I said, this stitch where you connected both of them together is really crucial because this is the first thing you see, so it should be like a perfect cross right here. And the next step is we're just gonna attach at the bottom both pieces to make it easier to attach the hood to the rest of the piece. Alright guys, so once you've sewed along here, the next step for us to do is to sew one straight stitch along here to make room for the drawstrings. Alright guys, so I've sewed the straight line along the top of the hood to create room for the drawstrings. Keep in mind that this is going to be a little bit tough on your first try, so it's alright if you don't get it completely straight. Once you've done it a few times, you can find your flow and find what makes it easiest for you to do. And now the hoodie is ready to be attached. Alright guys, so here's where the pins come in. What you're going to want to start to do is take these and start pinning here around the hood. Now what I've done is I found the center of the neck and I've aligned it with the center, and you'll see that because that's like the line where they connect. And it'll be like this. It'll be the back of the hood attaches onto the back of the neck. And what you're going to want to do is just pin around, and you can decide which side you want to have, overlapping. So once you've stitched everything on like this, you can decide whether you want the left side to go over the right or the right over the left. And I'll show you how it looks like when I'm done. Alright guys, so once you've attached your hood, it should look something like this. Once again, make sure that you haven't missed any spots, so go back and look at it and just kind of check it out, make sure it looks good, make sure it's sitting well on the neck. And also, as you're going, don't forget to try it on and make sure that it fits well. I actually just tried it on, so it feels and it looks really good. Okay guys, so now to attach the drawstring, what you're going to need is some scissors, the cap of a pen preferably with the little attachment right here. And then what you're going to do is you want to kind of, I don't really measure it, but you can just eyeball where you want it. I think that like 2 or 3 inches up is a really good place to put it. I'm going to start out with the outside one, make a tiny little slit right here, and then do the same thing to the one right next to it. Just like that, okay? And then if you want, you can just kind of adjust it, make it bigger or smaller. Then what you do is you're going to start attaching this to the pen cap, and this is what you're going to use to drive it through the hood. Alright guys, so once the drawstring has been threaded through, go ahead and tie both ends just to make sure that if it ever gets pulled out, it'll have less of a chance of going around again, which isn't that big of a deal because you can just string it again. That's just for your safety. Alright, now we're going to work on attaching the pocket, and then the final step is going to be attaching the ribbing on the waist and both the wrists. Alright guys, so once you've cut out the outline of the pocket, it should look somewhat like this. I like my pockets pretty wide and pretty big. I like a lot of hand space. I personally think that it's really cozy, but you can do it smaller in length or in width. It really doesn't matter. And the next thing I'll show you is where to pin it before attaching it to the rest of the hoodie. Alright guys, so once you've pinned the pocket, this is what it should look like. You should have pins going at the top, at the sides, at the bottom, and then you can leave the bottom edge raw because we're going to be covering that with the ribbing, so it doesn't really matter. And then right now I'm going to start stitching. You're going to need 1 straight stitch at the top, 2 right here because this isn't going to be attached to anything, 1 right here, 1 right here, and then afterwards I'm going to show you how to attach it to the hoodie. Alright guys, so this is what the pocket looks like completed. It's been fully stitched. Again, 1 stitch here, 2 here, 1 on the top, and then the same thing on the other side. And now it's ready to be attached to the rest of the hoodie. Okay, so I finished pinning the pocket to the rest of the hoodie. There's 1 pin here, 1 on each side, and there's 3 here at the bottom. Now the way that you're going to want to stitch it down is you're going to do 1 stitch here at the top. If you're doing like a centimeter apart from the first one, you want to do the same for each here. So if it's a centimeter here, then make sure it's a centimeter apart from this one as well. Just so you're kind of adding some symmetry and making the pocket look nice and even. Alright, so now everything has been sewed on. You see that there's 1 stitch at the top, 1 stitch here, and 1 stitch here, and there's still room for the hands to go in comfortably. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding the ribbing, which is going to go on the wrists and both the waistband. Okay, now to make the ribbing for the wrist, what you're going to want to do is get your ribbing material, and you're going to want to cut it out so it's half of a tube. So the top part should be folded over. Line it up with your existing wrist, and it should be a little bit smaller. It should be about 1 inch smaller, just so once you attach it, then you'll have to stretch it on when you attach it, so then it creates a little bit of difference. Once you've measured and you've cut it out, make sure that you're measuring it double the size that you actually want it to be. So once we actually attach it, it'll be about this long. Sew it at the ends just like so, and then once you've cut and sewed it, take it like this, open it up by the tube, put both of your hands in just like so. Take your middle fingers right here to kind of support, and then take your thumbs, open up the remainder of the fabric where you sewed, and then close it up just like this. So everything sits flush. Then once you have it just like this, take your thumb, grab the inside, just like you're folding socks, and then flip it inside out. So now you have a completed wrist, and now it's ready to be attached. Make sure that you take where the seam ends right here, and before you attach it, line it up where the seam is right here. So as you attach it, what you're going to do is you're going to take it like this. You're going to take the finished part and put that first. So insert it just like this. That. Make sure to align the seams up. So if this seam is right there, align it with that seam right there. And the reason why we made this a little bit smaller is because we're going to want this to be a little bit of a stretch. So as you sew, make sure you're stretching this as you go. You're going to want to attach this with a zigzag stitch. Alright, so these are what the wrists look like after I've attached the ribbing, and now we're going to move on to the waist. Alright, so once again, if you're attaching ribbing to the waist, you're going to want it proportionally smaller. We're going to do the same thing where we sew it a little bit here, close it up, and then do a zigzag stitch to attach it to the waist. Alright, so I've added the waistband on. I think that the gray ribbing on the waist and on the wrist matches really well with the gray drawstrings I put on the hood, and I'll show you what it looks like on person. Yo guys, thank you for watching. I don't know how long this video is going to be because it just took me a while to show you guys everything, but hopefully it was pretty easy. If you have any other questions and like something that I left out, just like leave it in the comments and I'll be pretty good about replying to it. Once again, just give it a like, subscribe, follow me on all my social media, just click the links in the description, and thank you so much for watching.